This is the second attempt to do this video. In the previous one of the neighbors, after I paid my debts to the credit unions a little bit, announced that he's going to pay his debt to me. Socialism and such. When one person gives benefits to somebody in the community, it tends to trickle. So I went out, bought myself some supplies, and so on and so forth. And I'm ready to do this again. Scandinavian folk that we are directing recap. So, as I said, we are, let's put this another way. We are trying to figure out something that I would relate to as genealogical history, but reality is that it's more fantasy than history, so perhaps some kind of origin mythos is the appropriate word. And we've played across many different simulators to see what our choices give us. So if we play them according to the choices that we've made as a family history, according to my interpretation, we will be getting the current timeline as far as I can say. We have roughly up-to-date understanding from the Bronze Age forward, but we have reports of our family being in some management position in Egypt for most likely some kind of small settlement producing stones or something of that nature. It never did seem to grow into a large settlement. Same for the Roman period. In the Roman period, we seem to have migrated to Spain and then lived there until the reconquest of Spain by the Spanish forces. And then we fled to the Nordic region. But between Egypt and the Roman Empire, there's at least a period where we went through China, and then at some point were Bronze Age Northerners. And when we were the Bronze Age Northerners, we were as close to our current timeline as I know of. And we, in the Bronze Age timeline, we started to move towards the south when the environment got colder. So this could very well be our 1500 BC, or it could be the last ice age. I'm leaning more towards the last ice age. And when we moved south, we ran into the tribes of the people who didn't develop the outlying regions quickly, but focused on a singular, highly developed bubble that is growing outward. These are your city folk. They were very surprised by our ability to tend horses, amongst other things. And then we interbred happily and mixed our religions and whatnot. And then after a while, when the environment got warmer again and the cities got, as they always do, super polluted, we migrated back into the north. So we have migrated south when it became too cold, and we have migrated north when the southern part became uninhabitable. So we are migratory peoples. And we are fairly certain that our methods of migrations are trackable, but we are not really concerned about that part. Once we get to the later part of the Bronze Age, maybe 500 BC, give or take, We settle in the Nordic peninsula rather permanently. Sometimes we help the Romans down south, and sometimes we don't help the Romans down south. But we are fairly sedentary for the next 2,000 years. In 1,500, we have a unified Scandinavian region. Everybody in the region speaks the same language, and they have more or less the same culture. The local cultures survive, but the dominant culture is one of Nordic culture. You can be a 10-year-old in Iceland and move to Lithuania, and the locals natively understand you. There is one culture. There are dialects within that culture, and some of them are more hard to understand for everybody else, and some of them are less. But there are only one culture in the north. And then we start to expand towards the northern coast of the Canadian region. It takes us a long time to go from Iceland to Greenland and from Greenland to the northern shores because we are developing cities. And instead of taking large swaths of territory with a single explorer and one group of 100 living per territory, we are focusing on getting actual cities to start before moving forward. And the job of finding a good spot for a city in the coastline, when you go this spot, nah, this spot, nah, this spot, nah, is actually surprisingly hard. So we are not much in the northern coast of North America at the moment. We are there, however. Newfoundland is one of those places which I consider funny. And up until the Second World War, we casually hold our own territory and try to stay out of the Allied and Axis entanglements, though we eventually slide into the Allied camp after a long period. Then the environmental degradation and nuclear war that our planet is undergoing gets out of hand. And by the 23rd century, it's essentially a dead world, and we are doing our thing, slowly developing into space age. So that's roughly the main outline. During the 15th century, we said that anybody who feels in danger in Europe for religious or humanitarian reasons or of that nature can move to Scandinavia. And we have assigned a plot the equal distance between the three main capitals in the peninsula to be the center of their power, to say that move there, so that we can keep an eye on them from all of our capitals at the same time. First to arrive were the Jews. They set up no province with a majority of their own, but preferred to spread across a large area, putting one store here and another store there, making kind of a network instead of a single city. Then the second to appear were the Catholics. They were fleeing the Protestant Reformation in Europe. Then the third to appear were the Protestant and Reformists running away from the Catholics. So those are the three main groups. Primarily, our own population slowly shifted from Catholic to Reformed instead of immigration, even though the main immigration was Catholics trying to prop up the region's belief in Catholicism. Though the large intermixing of populations and the resulting new understanding that there are different interpretations of the Bible even within the Holy Faith, followed by printing Bibles, followed by all that jazz, led to the Reformists and Protestants having a very sizable part of our population. We ran into a snafu with the church over not immediately exterminating all these people, which we don't want to do. We had this snafu going for 10 years when the church was being huffy with us and wouldn't talk to us, and we kept sending them gifts, and it was like trying to be in a bad relationship, if you will. So instead of leaving Catholicism, we said that the king is the highest source of legal power in the state, meaning that we demoted the Pope. Openly said that our king's power comes from being the king instead of any divine mandate. So we demoted the Pope. So we are technically still in Catholicism, but we don't believe in the Pope. So that's your Catholicism for you in this period. We are probably the first nation in this alternate interpretation of history due to our large amount of money and the fact that we have a very developed chemical and metal industry. We will probably be the first guys to develop civilian application of nuclear power, because we are 30% ahead of France and the UK, respectively. And based on the fact that we've been at peace while developing scientifically for nearly 200 years, we've had 2 minor border skirmishes, and we didn't take anything. For 300 years, we've had 1 large war. So keeping that in mind, and the fact that we try to be as technologically advanced as possible, leads me to believe that we might be the first to develop nuclear power in this reality. We have had some rumblings of somebody developing a stove that runs on uranium, but we have not been able to confirm this. And what else? We haven't decided on the location of the second capital yet. We are thinking of putting it on the furthest corner of our empire, but we are still debating if that would put it in Iceland. So thank you for watching this briefing or recap, and I will be probably playing something next. Thank you.